Welcome inside our modern glass factory. Today, you'll see the ancient Venetian trick that turns molten glass into hypnotic art.
It starts with the basics: silica sand, soda ash, and limestone, delivered in bulk.
Every batch is measured precisely because tiny mistakes show up as flaws in glass.
Automation keeps the recipe consistent, batch after batch.
Recycled cullet melts faster, saves energy, and helps the furnace run smoother.
Before melting, the cullet is cleaned. Even a little metal can ruin a piece.
This is the quiet start of something intense. A controlled recipe for molten glass. Color is planned early, using mineral-based frit and tested cullet blends.
Uniform grain size matters. It helps the batch melt evenly.
Now the factory gets loud, hot, and serious.
Inside the tank furnace, raw minerals collapse into liquid glass.
Temperature control is everything. Too cool, it stays gritty. Too hot, it gets unstable. A modern factory uses sensors to keep the melt consistent, minute by minute. Once the melt is clean, it flows toward the forming zone.
The melt is refined to push out bubbles, so the glass looks crystal clear. The glory hole is the artist's reset button, reheating glass to the perfect working softness.
This is where the ancient Venetian technique meets modern factory precision.
Rotation keeps it centered. Stop spinning, and gravity takes over. A gather begins with a steady dip. Molten glass clings like honey, but at 1,000 degrees. The marva cools the outer skin, giving control without freezing the core.
Here's the trick: a patterned mold that stamps texture into molten glass in seconds. The pattern grabs the surface like a fingerprint, creating that hypnotic, repeating geometry.
One pull, one spin, and the surface changes from smooth to alive.
A small breath expands the form, and the pattern begins to bloom.
Tools do not fight the glass. They guide it, while it is still soft enough to obey.
Reheat keeps the core workable without melting away the stamp design.
Color can be layered on top, and heat fuses it into the surface. A clear overlay is the secret to that deep, watery look.
In Venetian tradition, it's teamwork. One controls rotation, one controls form.
Now comes the transfer. The piece moves from blowpipe to punty, so the lip can be finished.
One clean tap, and the whole piece changes hands.
The rim is opened slowly, too fast, and the glass tears.
A quick trim, and the edge becomes clean, crisp, and professional.
Fire polishing removes micro cracks, so the glass stays strong.
This is why people cannot look away. Heat, spin, and pattern create moving light.
A modern factory scales an ancient skill by repeating it with discipline.
Glass is not just hot, it has a working window, and the team chases it.
If a bubble shows up, they correct it now. Later is too late.
Graphite tools shape without sticking, keeping the pattern sharp.
At this stage, it's still molten glass, but you can already see the art.
Next comes annealing, the slow cooling that prevents hidden cracks.
Cooling happens in stages. Too fast, and the glass will break later in your hands.
The factory programs the cooling curve like a recipe for strength.
The glow disappears, but the pattern remains locked in forever. Where the punty held the piece, there's a mark. Finishing makes it flawless.
Diamond grinding smooths the base so it sits perfectly flat.
A final polish brings back clarity and a clean shine. Even fingerprints matter. The finish has to look perfect under harsh light.
Now the pieces look calm, but they were liquid fire just hours ago. Quality check starts with the inside, because defects hide where you least expect.
Stress testing reveals whether annealing did its job.
Packaging is careful, because glass art does not forgive rough shipping.
Every box gets a traceable batch code, so quality can be tracked back to the furnace day.
And then it leaves the heat behind, heading out into the world. Surface scum is removed so the gather stays clean and clear.
Even the furnace walls are engineered to survive constant molten glass.
The first gather sets the foundation for everything that follows.
A straight blowpipe means a centered piece. Off-center becomes chaos.
The mold looks simple, but its geometry is what creates the hypnotic effect.
Rotation makes the imprint uniform, so the pattern stays symmetrical. A gentle breath turns a stamped surface into flowing optical motion. Some pieces get a micro layer of sparkle that lights up the pattern.
They shape the neck while the pattern is still soft enough to move, but not melt away.
Old school trick, modern setting. Wet pads cool the surface in seconds.
Modern factories track every step, so quality stays predictable.
As one piece cools, the next one is already being born.
Small defects are rejected because glass can fail suddenly.
A clear ring usually means healthy glass. A dull sound can mean hidden stress.
This is the payoff. Light gets trapped, bent, and released like a living thing.
A full factory run is like a dance performed in heat. It looks relaxing on camera, but the work is intense and timed.
Even the flame chemistry affects clarity and color.
The mold must be warm enough to stamp, but not so hot it smears the design. When gravity pulls, skill pushes back. A single groove can decide where the glass will break, cleanly and safely.
In a modern setup, multiple teams overlap to keep output steady. Even airflow is designed to protect workers and stabilize the glass.
Under magnification, you can see why this technique is respected. The pattern is razor clean.
A mark is added last, so every piece can be traced and authenticated.
This is what modern production makes possible. Tradition at scale. Good packaging is the final craft. One drop can end everything.
From a furnace to a box, the journey is controlled at every step. Even before melting, the mix is engineered for consistency. Molten glass moves slowly, but it never truly stops.
Simple tests still matter. Viscosity decides how the glass behaves under tools.
Bench rollers help keep rotation smooth so the form stays balanced.
The first breath creates the inner space, the hidden heart of the piece.
Wood blocks, wet and controlled, shape the glass without shocking it. Sometimes the pattern is reinforced with a second stamp, deeper and cleaner.
Decorative Kaylee can add lines that dance with the Venetian texture.
A clear layer acts like a lens, magnifying the pattern and trapping light.
Perfect alignment during transfer keeps the final piece smooth and symmetrical.
Trimming is brutal but precise. Glass rewards confidence. One last kiss of fire, and the edge turns smooth like water. Annealing is the patience part, the part no one sees, but everyone needs.
Once cooled, the piece becomes stable enough for finishing and handling.
Grinding is controlled and wet to keep the surface clear and safe.
Clarity is tested with contrast. Any distortion stands out instantly.
If a piece is not perfect, it does not ship. That is the standard.
Nothing is wasted. Even rejects become cullet for the next melt. This is the magic. A simple texture that turns light into moving waves.
The final step is protection, because this art is still glass.
Dozens of finished pieces, all born from molten glass and a single ancient trick.
From outside, it looks quiet. Inside, it's controlled fire.
Now you've seen it, from raw minerals to finished hypnotic glass.
Gather, stamp, shape, reheat, anneal. Simple steps, mastered through repetition.
That ripple effect is not a filter. It's geometry stamped into molten glass.
Modern control keeps the melt steady, so craftsmanship can stay consistent. When the pattern repeats perfectly, the factory knows the process is locked.
The last touch is care, because art breaks easily, even when it's made strong.
And that's the ancient Venetian trick, done in a modern glass factory.
If you watch this far, you understand the real secret: timing, heat, and control.
This is why people call it hypnotic. The glass seems to move, even when it's still.
Subscribe for more factory tours and process documentaries like this.
From molten glass to hypnotic art, the trick is real and the craft is earned.
See you in the next one, right here, inside the heat.